All right, it's Friday Forecast Northern Illinois. It's the home opener for Nebraska, and you really think that this couldn't come at a better time. Nebraska 0-2, Sean, and how do they kind of gather around and make sure that they're looking ahead, not backwards?
Yeah, this is the ultimate get-right week for Nebraska, and when Matt Rule took this job, he knew what the schedule was, but you would have liked this game to be your opener, not having to go on the road into two sold-out venues that had some of their largest crowds they've ever had in years at Minnesota and then Colorado. Because those aren't exactly ideal environments for a new head coach with a new offense and a new quarterback to work things out. But, Nebraska, the problems are what they are. Nebraska leads the country, Andy, in turnovers right now. They have 8 turnovers. On the positive side, they lead the country in sacks. So there are some positives and negatives with this team, but clearly the turnover negative is why Nebraska is where they're at right now, and they've got to figure out a way to get some identity established here at home.
Yeah, -6 is the turnover margin. 8 turnovers in 8 quarters, not a good stat. A lot of it has to do with the quarterback, Jeff Sims, banged up with an ankle. Early in the week, he's kind of iffy, but you got to believe if he can go, he'll go against Northern Illinois. What does he need to improve on other than the basics, obviously, if the ball's on the ground to jump on it?
Finishing. I mean, they got to just finish. They have sniffed the red zone so much as an offense. Whether it's getting 3 points or touchdowns, they have not been able to finish in situations because of penalties or turnovers. And it's just hard to put your arms around why they're having some of these issues. They've got to get it figured out. And I asked Coach Rule, just how do they question maybe his effort to dive on the ground and grab fumbles, because there were a couple that Sims could have maybe jumped on as hard as he could, and he kind of had a real passive approach to jump on the pile to get the ball back, and they're figuring out ways to work on that in practice. It's all hands on deck right now trying to get some of these things figured out.
It was interesting hearing him talk about him being Matt Rule, saying he was asking advice, and Ron Brown says, well, Coach, we don't teach Jeff Sims to jump on the ball during practice. We say get away from the ball so you don't get hurt. Well, that's going to change, obviously, moving forward. One of the things Matt Rule did say on Monday, which I thought was interesting, he's pleased with the way they're running the football, so to speak, and Gabe Ervin had a nice day with some flashes. Matt Rule saying he's seeing flashes from this offense.
He is a guy, though, that you want to be able to utilize as the game gets later. And the problem with this last game is Nebraska got down where you couldn't really do what they were doing. In the second quarter at Colorado, mid-second quarter, it felt like Nebraska was starting to get downhill on Colorado. They were beginning to win at the line of scrimmage. You're like, all right, the game plan that Matt Rule came here with, because if they wouldn't have turned it over before halftime, the time of possession might have been almost 20-10 in favor of Nebraska. And then the turnovers happened and the game got unraveled. And still Nebraska got it back to 13-7. And so there's so much you can look at about that game, but just how quickly it came out of whack it's just, you can't have that happen.
Right, but one of the reasons why they had it in position mid-third quarter to be 13-7 was the defense. They've been playing lights out, at least early in the game. Obviously, they kind of ran out of juice there in the second half, but you got to be impressed with the way they're getting to the quarterback and how they're hitting. Their tackling has been outstanding through 2 weeks.
Yeah, Tony White, I think anybody that was a critic of the 3-3-5 or questioning it, I think you can kind of quiet down now, because they have proven to be a very physical unit at the line of scrimmage. They're sure tacklers, and they're developing new players that we weren't even expecting to be players. Mekhi Bayer at linebacker, all of a sudden a guy that almost transferred is now a key player in this program, and that's development, that's coaching. That's a lot of credit to Tony White and his guys. Javin Wright's played more. On the back end, you're seeing a lot of guys get opportunities, but what really caught my eye on Saturday was the 4 true freshman D linemen playing, and there was a few plays where the 3 D linemen were true freshmen. Princewell Uman-Yellen was out there, Riley Van Poppel, and then Cam Lenhart. The 3 of those guys, boom, boom, boom. I mean, when's the last time that's ever happened, if ever, at Nebraska?
Yeah, Cam Lenhart had a heck of a game. He had a couple of sacks the first 2 of his collegiate career, and they will not be the last. Special teams, obviously, got to get that cleaned up. How does that happen moving forward?
Brian Buschini, that was disappointing to see him not, you're in Colorado, Andy. I mean, you got to put the ball. I mean, the Colorado Rockies used to have to put their baseballs in humidors and figure out ways to keep the ball from traveling. And for Brian Buschini, that should have been a career day, and it was maybe his worst game considering the stage and the magnitude of what it was for Nebraska at that point. So he's got to get that cleaned up. And, the Alvano, that was a long attempt.
Yep.
45.
46 yards, yeah. And as you mentioned, it should have been closer had they not had the botched play before then.
Yeah, and if you're 2 yards closer, that might go in.
Yeah. And, moving forward, when you look at Northern Illinois, this is a golden opportunity for the Huskies. Obviously, they went on the road to begin the year with a stunning upset at Boston College, and then they come back and they lose to Southern Illinois, a high-quality FCS team, but still an FCS team. So what do you expect moving forward? Matt Rule says he knows exactly what NIU's thinking coming to the Memorial Stadium on Saturday.
Well, Rocky Lombardi, a name very familiar with Husker fans, is back for a 7th year of college.
7th year.
He's a Des Moines pre-med. No,
yeah, I know, right?
He's a great. I actually know his dad pretty well. He was a coach in Iowa for years and wanted to come to Nebraska. Visited Nebraska. Was teammates in high school with John Raritan.
Oh,
that's how
long ago he played high school football.
And he visited Nebraska with John Raritan way back when, and was here to check things out. And he's a veteran. He's played here, almost won here with Michigan State. But then there's a few Nebraskans, like 3 Nebraskans from Omaha on that roster, led by Cade
Haberman.
Haberman, and former state champ wrestler. And Haberman had a really, really good year for them. He's one of the better defensive linemen in the MAC. And you heard Coach Rule say that this defensive line is every bit as good or better than Minnesota and Colorado.
Right, and you mentioned Rocky Lombardi. He was here, I believe that was the 9-6 game, the Michigan State game in the snow. That tells you how long ago and how long
Pre-Mel Tucker, Michigan State.
Yeah, this is how long he's been playing college football. Pretty amazing. All right, to wrap this up, what do you expect Saturday? Home atmosphere, what kind of reception will Matt Rule get in his debut?
Well, it's a night game, and then they're 2:30 the next week. So I think it's an ideal opening time. It's weird to wait this long for a Nebraska home game to be mid-September and getting your first opportunity. It's even stranger to be 0-2. So it's not the stage you would have drawn up, but Nebraska fans are the best out there. We know he's going to get a warm welcome, and the team needs to respond, though. They need to come out and play inspired football and show improvements of some of the things that we've seen the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Matt Rule's saying this team wants to win so badly. He wants to see his team let it rip. And we'll see if they can do that against Northern Illinois. It's a 6 p.m. start. It's on FS1.